Hello everyone, it's Fluffy, and I'm back. I realize I never said the name of the map last time, but it was Dubious Procession. Like I said, I'll have another game, also a Sonya game on this map, but against Max instead of Von Bolt. I do believe Max is actually a tougher pick, a tougher matchup, mostly because there are plenty of shoal tiles and roads, and if you know Max with a 20% firepower on tanks plus a comm tower would pretty much just one-shot an infantry on a road or a shoal, something that Von Bolt tried to do last game. If you noticed, the tank came in, fired at my infantry, and it survived that one. Well, Max would just kill it. So let's begin. I'm going to make their units face the left while I face the right. He starts with 2 infantry. I decide to do a similar capture, but I change up the capture phase quite a bit. Max goes for his turn 1 captures. I did the same. And this time, unlike the last game, I decided I wanted to focus my efforts up here, where it's closer to my airport than it is to my opponent's airport, then heading to the right where it's closer to my opponent. By going up, I think I will have more of my forces pressuring this area sooner. So hopefully the fight stays over here, is what I'm planning. Just like last time, I go for the capture chain, and I still give my option to choose the airport or the city, but I think I choose the airport first, don't quite remember. So, strangely enough, Max goes for this city. I personally would have went for this city. Like, he didn't have the option with how his infantry moved, but I would have went with the further city, because there's always the risk that a tank might come and interrupt this, and then it's really hard to respond. Especially if you don't build a tank of your own, and if you build a tank on the other side. That being said, the tank on the right side does kind of force me to build a tank down here, so I guess this is perfectly safe. I go for the further city, like I said, and I build a tank ready to respond. The tank heads to the left. I was a little confused by this. I thought the tank would be... Well, I guess it's because I built a tank down here that Max didn't even bother trying to fight this off, or like challenge this. I did go for the airport first. I like my air units, and I definitely like getting the counters, which I will definitely abuse if I can. I go for this artillery again, mostly because I think locking this city down from this shoal tile is pretty nice. Alright, I would go use the mountain infantry to capture this. The infantry on the city could definitely be used to walk further. So it's just a different choice where I can get closer to the next city. And while it did not show this turn, this Max tank did strike the pipe seam up here. So I guess that's what the tank was for. And another tank was built. And a recon. I guess the recon is it's a perfectly nice counter against my artillery. It's just unfortunate for him that I can afford another tank. I decided to put my tank more aggressively because I definitely want to take the initiative and suppress my opponent before they can do much. And I certainly wouldn't mind trading vehicles against Max. His powers scale better than mine, so he would benefit from getting more units. I think the tank struck the pipe seam again. It did. Alright. I move my artillery, locking the city like usual. This infantry could continue on to this city capture. Now, if he switched the order with the infantry, I believe this infantry would have already begun capturing. And he could make the choice of canceling that capture or finishing it and getting a shot. I think it's worth to finish the capture because a city like this is very hard to take. That being said, if he is forced to defend it, the fight would remain over here, close to my airport, so maybe it's not a good idea, or maybe it's a good idea to just capture it for now and then slowly give it up later. But that didn't happen, so it doesn't matter. I definitely do not want, wait a minute. Okay, I was just checking something. I definitely do not want the Max to first strike me. As much as I like my counterattacks, Max actually does so much damage on his first strike that it would be winning for Max. You would never see a 6-6 trade. You would probably see the normal 5-8 or the 5-7. And the fact that Max is getting the comm tower. I built my first copter because I like copters and and there's a tank spam going on. I might as well bring out a copter. So this tank, it went to fire at this pipe seam. So just so you know where it's going, the replay viewer doesn't really show the attacks on the pipe seam. I decide to get some first strikes because I see opportunity, I take. This one I get to sit on a city and it's not covered by any tanks. And this is a problem with playing passively. If you play your vehicles passively and your infantry goes on ahead, you just lose some infantry. And over here I just so happen to have an artillery nearby ready to cover this tank. So I'm fine if the Max first strikes me. Max first striking me here would also mean the fight would be on this side of the map, which I would definitely prefer. I bring my copter closer, and unlike the last game where I moved my infantry up trying to deny this capture, I'm not even going to bother. I learned my lesson. I made my mistake of walking forward. I'll just stay back over here and keep the pressure on the left side. I also built an anti-air of my own because I definitely need anti-air to take on the copter wars. Max strikes my infantry, which is fine. I think I would prefer to preserve infantry, especially on a base light map. But I guess... Actually, no, I don't think it's fine. I have another healthy infantry to capture this. So definitely go preserve infantry health instead, because that's 5 HP and a unit count, trading only for a 2 HP. And the sad recon doesn't get to do anything. I think recon was definitely too late. If you're going to go with a recon harassment, you shouldn't go tank first. You should just go data recon, where it's much longer before a tank response can arrive. I start capturing this, support it with artillery, and because both my tanks are chipped, I moved them onto properties to heal them. Now that does mean that I don't have anything to wall this. Never mind, I do have something to wall this off. I think I just need to move my infantry into this forest to finish the wall. I do that, okay. And I built the second copter because I like copters. Copters are also extra strong in this map, mostly because of these ocean tiles that make it easy for them to front shift relative to tanks. And relative to anti-air, which is more important. Max goes for this city. I'm fine with that because I'm getting my own city, and this is somewhat of an overextension for me. I delayed it long enough, so it's fine. Hang on, did he not move? Okay, he had no infantry ready to capture this city, I suppose, so that's fine leaving the tank on the city. Unguarded infantry, go! Take it down! I'm a very evil opportunist. If I see shots, I take shot. And it also means that more of my effort is focused on the left side, which I definitely prefer fighting. And one of the things I would say people make the mistake of, well, yeah, I would call it a mistake. One of the mistakes people do is that they only ever respond to their opponent's movement. And in my last game, I was somewhat forced to because they were capturing my cities. But this puts Max in a pretty hard place where he has to choose whether to fight in a disadvantageous area where it's closer to my airport, or lose these cities in an attempt to fight elsewhere. While my tank could sit on the city and get the Sonya counterattack, Max definitely has enough forces to knock this out. So I decided to just simply continue shifting to the left. I definitely do not want to fight closer to the airport range. And I built more anti-air and copters. Who needs tanks when you have anti-air and copters? Max gets a strike here. I think this somewhat forces copter knocks this infantry out and tank sits on city. Because without a tank sitting on a city, or a recon, that's also perfectly fine. But tank definitely needs to get on the city. There it is. Max low rolled here, but it was possible that a Max tanks just one-shots an infantry. I'm not looking at the calculator right now, but I think it's like 96%. to 100 something. I don't quite remember. But I know it's definitely possible for Max to one-shot an infantry. Max chooses not to fight into my army and instead shifts his focus elsewhere. But I think I guess it's a short-term loss of these two cities for a long-term gain of fighting in a more advantageous area. But either way, it is a pretty bad position considering that I got the initiative and struck first. I also tried clearing this infantry on the mountain, and I successfully blocked the units capable of interrupting both of these cities. I don't expect to hold them, being so close to this base, but I do expect them to buy time, whereas Max would send something to retake it back, and that would keep the fight on the left side just a little longer. Ultimately, I chose not to go in here because I'm not going to send my units to die. I built a mech just to help defend this area, and an anti-air in case the copter decides to shift to the right. And I begin front shifting to the right. Now, I know I said I don't like fighting on this side, but once I got these two cities, it becomes much more justifiable. Mostly because there's nothing for me to gain on the left side. But there is certainly a lot of stuff I could lose on the right side. And with an income advantage, I could definitely... It would be a 4K income advantage, which I think would definitely help win the fight on the right side, especially on this map where the income isn't too high. It's high enough that I can afford medium tanks, which is nice, but not that much higher. My copter strikes the pipe seam. I don't think I will ever really open this, but it's a investment, just in case I do manage to open it later. Tank goes in, and this is where I do disagree with Max. I think the best decision for Max here is simply he is trying to win the city, but there's no infantry nearby. Maybe I guess he could have set his last turn up better with moving at least one infantry nearby. But if you're not capturing anything, you don't need to attack. You could simply wait, get your infantry ready to threaten captures. And better yet, just not to let me sit on the cities. The city is covered by my artillery for this very reason. And all this killed is 2 infantry, so I don't believe this is worth it. I think it's better to just occupy areas near the city to try to separate my army into 2 pieces, the left side and the right side. That would force me to build a medium tank on the right side, I would think, because I won't be able to reinforce. But if I'm getting first strike, then I might as well take my first strikes. But otherwise, this is definitely an overextension. It's as if I'm fighting all the way here, where I didn't even try to take the city, and Max is going for this city on the other side. So, I get to attack from a city, which I definitely like. I get both of these cities, which I do like. Copter strikes from the mountain. It's a tile that a tank cannot attack from, so I might as well use my copter for it. I get this strike. I get this strike. And here I'm debating whether or not I want to sit on this city. And I do. And the reason why I do is because I have the income advantage. It's a 4K income advantage. So trading would be good for me. Additionally, Sonya powers does not scale as strong as max powers. A max blast would do a lot more damage to me than a counter break would do to max. So if I trade units down, the less vehicles he has, the weaker his powers become, and that's why I decide to go in for this. It also forces Max to continue fighting where he's down a lot of vehicles. So I think it's 3 copters and 3.5 tanks against my... Well, this copter isn't in the fight yet, but it definitely will if he targets this. So it's against my 3 copters, 2 tanks, 2 anti-airs, and a little artillery, which I like. Well, make that 4 copters because I have another copter coming in. It just struck the pipe seam so you don't see it move. So my army is still separated, but it will join the fight eventually. He goes for the HQ cap. And he goes for the HQ cap. I don't know why he went for this strike. Never mind, I guess I do know. He's acted for the power. And with his power, he was able to one-shot my chipped copter and go for my artillery strike. But that does also mean Max will have a harder time clearing stuff up here, simply because he does not have the vehicle count. And I'm surprised this infantry almost killed it. It was impossible, but it was almost there. So unfortunately for him, he wasn't able to break through all the stuff over here, and actually no, he can still reach my other copter. And one-shots it too. I guess the copter was chipped from firing at the tank. But aside from that, I think it was a perfectly acceptable thing. Mostly because he's overextending into my territory to get all those hits, which is one of the biggest weaknesses of using the power first. Well, the biggest weakness is you use power and you often give your opponent a superpower, and you're also overextending into them. So I've experienced that when I played in Jess Mirrors, where I used my power first, getting a lot of good strike, but then my opponent, who's also Jess, then uses the super and get a bigger strike back. So unless you're getting a lot with your power, I'd say it's usually better for COs like Jess or Max to save up for the super. The +2 movement and the firepower really can destroy a lot. I use my counter break. Yeah, my artillery gets a shot. And this time I definitely go for these hits rather than the copter hit. I personally do not like copter on copter violence, especially against one that is powered by Max. I get the hits where I can. While I did get hit by the recon, it does also give this copter a target, which it didn't have before. Now I had to choose between killing the recon or the tank. I chose the recon, but I think it was definitely better to strike the tank, because now my anti-air can't knock out this copter, which does feel a little sad. But I have plenty more anti-air coming in, so it's not like these copters would be around much longer. I take the spot on the mountain because it's my mountain. and it's definitely good to take control of hard-to-get terrain. I move my infantry onto this tile to block the anti-air from ever supporting the fight. Build another copter of my own, mostly because Max's anti-air will not be in the fight for a long time, whereas 4 of my anti-airs are very close to the fight. So with 4 anti-airs, I should win the copter wars, and then all of these tanks would be irrelevant. That's the dangers of unit counters. Once you get hard counter, it's very hard to continue fighting. And that's usually how I press my advantage. I just try to build one really strong counter. It sometimes backfires, like the game where Can't Buy built 5 anti-airs against me and knocks out my entire air force. But that's not happening here, because I have the anti-air this time. I guess some of you could say I stole this idea from Can't Buy then. Max kills my infantry on the road, but the funny thing is, I could just block it again with another infantry. And it does not look like Max will have the infantry to clear this. He could move it closer, but it's something that he has to be aware of that I could do. And this is why the ocean tiles are very annoying for vehicles. My counter break allows my anti-air to survive, which means Max cannot break through, and this tank doesn't really have a target other than this anti-air, which is still an overextension. Now this time Max is capturing the city, so that's a good thing. And both of these infantries are in range to clear this tile. So I'm thinking I should go for it anyway, but I'll try to find some way to get rid of or injure some of these infantry. But for now, I'll deal with the vehicle fight first. I don't go for the copter hit, I go for the tank hit, because I like unit counters. I get rid of this tank simply because this anti-air does not really have a better target. I guess I could join my anti-airs so that they could one-shot copters, but I think clearing Max units are more important. It's not like I give Max any additional targets he wouldn't have gotten. Like, for example, this tank in the back does not have the range to move towards my anti-air anyway, not without a super. So I think it's perfectly fine for me to take this hit. My anti-air knocks out this tank. I block this tile once again. And ultimately, Max is given the opportunity to clear this tile, clear my infantry, and move the anti-air in. But it does mean that there will pretty much be... Well, the HQ cap is going to fail anyway. There's not enough vehicles to support it anymore. Max gets this city, and in a situation where you have to choose between giving up your HQ or a city, I'm perfectly fine with giving up this city, giving up both of these cities, because it does mean that I'm winning the engagements. It is a good unit count advantage thing where it's just my style of fighting where I try to get effective engagements and a unit count advantage, even if I lose cities in the process. I definitely prefer unit count over income, although it has definitely went against me in the past. I definitely prefer effective engagements over keeping my cities. Here's the final max force. And he join caps, he attacks my copter, he attacks my copter. All of this will be irrelevant because I have so much anti-air nearby. His anti-air strikes his infantry again. And I get a strike over here. And this time I don't want to make the same mistake I did last time against Von Bols, where I was encouraging the HQ cap on my... Well, I was encouraging my opponent to do the HQ cap by not clearing it. I think this time I chose to make sure the power allowed it to survive, but this time I made sure that I interrupted it in such a way that it will definitely fail. So I weakened both of Max's copters. I didn't strike this anti-air because this is something I didn't realize until this turn, that my tank covers it. I think it was a tank from here. Yeah. My tank covers this tile. So I ended up managing to get this shot and blocking the anti-air from the fight once again. I also began recapturing this because my unit count and my income, well, not my income, my unit count and my unit value advantage is high enough at this point. I end my turn with a counter break, and mostly because I want to keep my copters alive for the tank engagements. My anti-airs are starting to falter against the tank hits. So Max captures this city. He went for the further one first this time, which definitely better than going for this one. Tank strikes my 1 HP anti-air. Wait, no, is it 1 HP? I'm pretty sure it was at 4. Something happened. I lost track of my own units. No, it was at 1 because of the counterattack. Okay. Still, Max does clear a lot of unit count. Fortunately, my counter break, because I weakened that copter, my counter break copter was able to kill this without any damage taken back. This anti-air does go here to kill my infantry. I guess it's certainly better than sitting on this tile. You try to go around it. The problem is, I think it was better to attack from the shoal tile, because now my anti-air over here, which does not have a target, it now has a target. And finally, I decide to go clear out whatever is left. I use my anti-air on the infantry, because I know that will clear it. Kill the last infantry, and sit on the city to be annoying. A max normal power could strike this tank and it will probably win, but I have vehicles ready to move in and support it. I also begin pushing up on this side. Not really because I expect to take anything, but because doing so would force Max to divert some attention, whereas I start taking these cities and I start pushing at the left again. With this far much of a unit count advantage, this is something that I can do. This is why you gotta keep your unit count up. Otherwise, you'll be met with a situation where an irrelevant force is actually threatening stuff. Max uses his max force. I said the last one was the last one, but I guess this is the last one. And he actually kills my tank. But it was too little, too late, I believe. I go for this strike because I can. I go for this strike because I will reinforce it later. I send my copters forward. I always like copters hitting tanks. And I moved this tank to the left. It can get first struck by a max tank, but I think it's fine because I have plenty of copter reinforcements, and it means my anti-air likely wouldn't get hit. I guess my tank could cover this tile instead, so my copters could focus on this side. I sent infantry getting ready to retake this city and also to take this center city. I also force an engagement with this infantry. And I just keep my infantry on the mountain because I'm stronger than a lash infantry over here. Oh, it goes for my anti-air instead. But there's the resign. I think as max, you definitely want to be more aggressive. So this tank striking the pipe definitely takes... I know in some games you 100% want to break the pipe seam, but this pipe seam, I don't really see it as necessary. The only time I really attack it is when I'm sending my copter to the right side. I may as well use all the movement to get on this tile and get a strike. But aside from that, I don't really see the purpose of breaking it. It still takes 3 turns to reach this city. I guess as max, with a power, you could target the city in 2 turns. So I guess as max or adder, there is some benefit to breaking this, but it definitely took a lot of time out of. It gave me the initiative as I managed to control the center. And I believe it also allowed an attack like this to happen, where stuff is just not covered. Additionally, the battlecopter stayed there to attack the pipe seam, which I think it's better to just tank moves forward, copter uses this full movement around to get the strike. It means you will have a more active copter. And I guess normally... No, this infantry would still get hit. I guess it's just coordinating the infantry better. Like the tanks moving in over here, this infantry definitely could have definitely have the infantry move forward rather than... I'm not sure where it went, but definitely move it closer to capture this city. I mean, it's something that I'm still learning where I should keep an infantry nearby. So I missed leave an infantry near a city occasionally, but definitely start threatening stuff. Otherwise, all these attacks... Otherwise, it's just giving me an extra turn to fight, and an extra turn that you have to overextend into my territory. So that's this game. I'm not sure how comparable it is to my last game, but I did make the effort of not pushing my infantry to try to fight Max over here. The only reason why my first tank went up here is because I noticed Max is not really moving down. So that was this game. Not sure what game to show next. I'll decide next time. And that's it for this. Goodbye.